Return of the Mount Hua Sect, Chapter 233.
What is with that one?
Chungmyung tilted his head. Seeing that, Mengso frowned. Again, I know that it isn't easy.
Of course, it isn't easy. I might fall asleep since it turned out to be so easy.
But it is for Mount Hua. Chungmyung tilted his head and asked, "Can I ask a couple of questions?" "Anything."
First, you realize that the situation in Yunnan isn't good, right?
Mengso smiled bitterly. "You speak like I have no eyes. Of course, I know that as well."
Then how come you haven't done anything about it until now?
Hearing that question from Chungmyung, Mengso slightly pouted. "Right. I understand why you would think that way. From your eyes, it would seem like I am blocking the trade between Yunnan and the Central Plains."
It isn't that?
"I have no excuses. It is a situation where anyone would think that. But," Mengso calmed his expression and said, "it wasn't me who stopped the trade between the two places. It was the decision of my predecessors. Even though I am the Lord now, I cannot simply overturn the will of my predecessors."
True.
Authority didn't come just from sitting in a seat of power, particularly for a place that boasted its glorious history like the Beast Palace. If there was no respect for the ancestors, there wouldn't be anyone loyal to the Lord. No matter how strong the Lord was, the moment he denied the decisions of his predecessors, his authority was bound to fall. A leader cannot lead a nation with weakened authority. Considering the situation of Yunnan, which had been horribly pushed to a corner, it was unclear what would happen to the place if such decisions were made. And the people of Yunnan do not welcome the people from your side. If I force the trade route to open, there would be countless people who would not like it. As such, I've become tied up in the situation."
Even if their lives are at stake?
Humans do not live on food alone. Sometimes there are more important things than eating. Chungmyung frowned a little, unable to understand, and the Lord noticed it. "As if it wasn't enough that we were betrayed. We have been called barbarians and have been hated by the people of the Central Plains for a long time. That is why we cannot bow our heads to them."
I understand what you mean.
Something would have changed if the other side apologized to us first. But they don't even pay attention to Yunnan. Those who should apologize do not even bother showing their faces in Yunnan. So what can I do? He seemed really frustrated.
You have been through tough times.
At Chungmyung's sincere words, the Beast Palace Lord, Mengso, let out a deep sigh. "Even though I am the Lord of the Beast Palace, I have a duty to feed the people of Yunnan. But there simply isn't enough food to feed everyone. So, I have to buy the grains from somewhere else. So far, we solved it a little through exchanges with the West. But now, we have reached a limit." And you appeared at the same time." Chungmyung nodded.
No, wait.
Chungmyung's eyes widened.
Then all of it.
As soon as they met, hailing them to be the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, and laughing out loud and giving them drinks was all. Chungmyung had thought this man was a simple, kind idiot, but Chungmyung was the idiot.
Wow, Lord, you are a scary person.
"I am ashamed." Mengso smiled bitterly. "It isn't like I devised a great ploy or something. Usually, people who see my appearance and hear my voice think that I am an idiot. If I had a slightly normal body, maybe your thoughts would have been different."
It's really shocking. I'm a bit surprised.
Mengso let out a soft laugh, and the muscles in his body were twitching.
Who would look at him and think he is smart?
Perhaps that was the reason Mengso took advantage of his own appearance. Mengso was the most unusual person Chungmyung had met in his new life.
Then what you said about the Plum Blossom Sword Saint?
Ah, don't get that wrong. He really is the hero of Yunnan. He really helped us selflessly.
Well, sure, call me that. Who among the people I've beat up would say this?
But honestly, I was really amazed to see his descendants come here. You were really wonderful.
It was nothing.
Mengso had a bitter smile on his lips. I needed someone to depend on. Even if we resume the trade with the Central Plains, there has to be a justification that is good enough for the people of Yunnan to not react to it negatively. If the party on the other side of the trade was Mount Hua, the sect that the Plum Blossom Sword Saint belonged to, they would be a bit taken aback, but they wouldn't openly oppose it.
A fox? You're a sly fox.
Chongmyung had thought the man was a bear, but he was a fox. Chongmyung smiled and nodded his head.
I roughly understand what is going on.
It is such a favor I want to ask of you. Mengso bowed his head to Chongmyung. I love the people of Yunnan. They are rough but simple people. I cannot see them starving anymore. I have done my best, but I have finally reached my limit. So please, help me. I promise that it will not hurt you. Chongmyung leaned back and folded his hands. However, unlike his thinking appearance, he was smiling on the inside.
What kind of result is this?
He came here to propose a trade, but the other party initiated it first. If Yunnan's tea could be sold by Mount Hua, the benefits they would gain from it would be beyond imagination. Chongmyung opened his mouth wide as he imagined Mount Hua covered in gold.
Gold?
Nothing. Chongmyung was unable to hold back the laughter and covered his mouth. But seeing his expression, Mengso thought of something else. It's difficult, right? Mengso frowned. I know it isn't an easy situation. I heard the situation of Mount Hua isn't good either. Meanwhile, I am not someone who can make things work out like the people in Sichuan who I keep an eye on. It was natural for him to think this way. It was only a few years ago that Mount Hua began to grow rapidly. The fact that this news hadn't spread completely, even in the Central Plains, made sure that Yunnan had no knowledge of it either. Of course, Chongmyung had shown his prowess by subduing the snake in the pond, but the strength of one person didn't represent the strength of the sect. Therefore, for the Beast Palace Lord, the Mount Hua sect was still continuing to struggle. Moreover, considering the complicated situation of Sichuan, it was inevitable that he wanted to have Mount Hua make the trade with them. Of course, Chongmyung was holding his thighs and trying to stop back his laughter at this point. Is it difficult?
Right? Even though Mount Hua is making a ton of money.
On the way here, they made an alliance with the Sichuan Tang family. And then, they were pushed into a cart, which was pulled by some efficient horses and was quickly brought into the heart of Yunnan. This was all hard work.
Sayong! Sect leader Sayong! It is said that people who live the good life are blessed. I'm so lucky that I decided to spare the snake. What? The core? Let's talk about that later, Sayong. I'll be eating rice with gold powder sprinkled on it soon.
Mengso sighed and looked at Chongmyung's red face. I cannot help it if it is that tough. Suddenly, Mengso gave up and Chongmyung moved, startled at the situation. And then he grabbed the Lord's hand with both his hands. The man flinched back as he saw the watery eyes of the disciple in front of him. However, the predator, Chongmyung, didn't let go of his hand. Is difficult or not difficult so important in our relationship? What is important is that Mount Hua and the Beast Palace are friends. Friends?
Yes, friends.
Chongmyung gave a weak smile.
How sad must you have felt during all this time? The bloody 9 Great Sect bastards.
Right. When one of them said some words, looking down on the 9 Great Sects, both of them agreed with each other right away.
And no one understands the situation in Yunnan better than Mount Hua. Our sect defeated the demonic sect members, but we weren't even shown that grace.
Yeah, right. I am aware of it. We aren't ignorant of that.
We are comrades. Comrades. Right. My Mount Hua isn't like the others. Who will help us if not each other? The Beast Palace and Mount Hua can be called brothers despite the fact that we do not share the same blood.
I like that word very much. It was a moment when those who had been abandoned in the past felt friendship as they touched each other's wounds.
So don't worry. I will sell the tea with all the power of Mount Hua.
Oh, to that extent. There was a hint of shock in Mengso's eyes.
What? Is this a scam? Eh? Why say that? This isn't a scam, but a cooperation.
Chongmyung giggled and waved his hand.
Don't worry. I'll take care of it.
If you do, Yunnan will regard Mount Hua as a benefactor.
I think it's better to have it written down. We need to have such things written down so that they don't change.
Chongmyung shook his head and took the paper and ink brush that was on the table. He then ran to get a plate.
Good. It is good to go ahead with trust and faith, but a relationship with needs has to continue for a long time. So, there must be evidence that can be confirmed to ensure it's continual.
Evidence?
Yes, it's nothing special, just...
Chongmyung shrugged his shoulders.
Something like a trivial promise to give Mount Hua the right to monopolize the tea trade with Yunnan for the next 100 years. For those 100 years, no other merchant can trade with Yunnan. Well, even that trivial thing has to be written down. If you put your print on this, who would dare doubt the relationship between the two of us?
The Lord tilted his head. You are quite helpful.
I'm just a Taoist. I have no hesitation when it comes to helping others.
But for the first time, it was Mengso who was feeling like he had no other option. Then, do I just need to transfer the exclusive rights to you?
If there is anything more, I'll just let you know.
I have to say this, though. The Beast Palace Lord had a serious expression. The reason I sought this from you is because I thought that you, whom I have seen for only a short while, isn't an evil one. If you had killed the ink-scaled blood python, I would have never proposed this. So, promise me, no matter what kind of profit you take, it will help solve the difficulties of the people of Yunnan. Chongmyung looked at the man with serious eyes.
I promise.
There was no more need for other words. Good. Hearing Chongmyung's answer, the Lord grabbed the brush and began to write the contract without regrets. The contract that was written at once was flawless and perfect. He wrote down every detail and took out a stamp and stamped it. Soon after, he handed it to Chongmyung.
This man is smart.
Perhaps all this had played out in the Lord's mind a long time ago. The clauses in the contract were thorough and clean, and were unbelievably clear to find loopholes in. Is there anything else?
No, this is good.
Chongmyung grinned and looked at the contract.
Should I bring Sasuk, since he is now the acting leader?
No, I believe you.
What about me?
The name of the person who will become the best in the world in the future has heavier worth than the sect leader. Chongmyung took the contract and signed it. Finally, the two shared a copy of the contract and looked at each other.
Is this finished then?
Right, but I have a personal request.
Huh?
The Lord scratched his head as he put on a humble expression. This is actually an embarrassing one. The man sighed and had difficulty speaking, and when he was done, he smiled.
Well, if that's the kind of request it is, don't worry, I'll do it perfectly.
And then Chongmyung giggled, making Mengso worried. Will that be fine?
You worry about every small thing. I'm Chongmyung.
Chongmyung pounded his chest as he said that.
But I'm not sure if that can happen.
Mengso, who had looked worried until then, sighed out in relief.